Hey guys, what's up? I am here today on the red couch for, what are we calling this, Jake? Red couch
Talks.
Red couch talks. All right. So the discussion today is endurance training and just overall training. So first of all, I'm going to start with Jake, by the way, doesn't know what the questions are. He knows
I didn't even know it was going to be about endurance training.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he knows I'm going to ask him some questions. First, I'm going to give a little background about myself and my experiences. I'm going to ask him some questions just because he has some slightly different experiences that, he's in training styles that he's done. So give you background about myself. So if you obviously you're subscribed to my channel if you're watching this, but my background is soccer. So I actually I was a late bloomer, started my senior year of high school, and I trained my butt off, worked my way through college, got a scholarship, paid for my college education, and then I actually played after college a little bit as well. And so the discussion today is the training. So when I first started training, I was actually overtraining, and I didn't realize this until after I got my college education for training and also my certs and stuff. And I can remember I used to train like 4 hours a day, every day, and I would actually be, this is during the season and in the off season, and then when I would have games, I'd be tired, and I didn't understand why. And so, while I learned like the scientific method of training, then I realized like I was actually overtraining, and so my body was just tired. And an important aspect of training and nutrition and exercise is rest. Your body needs rest. So I learned that kind of the hard way, but I don't take back any of the training I did. It was actually me and my good buddy, like literally in the winter, I can remember it would be like -10, and we'd be out doing sprints at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, no lie, for like 2 hours. That's what we do. That was our life, training soccer. We wanted to be pro soccer players. So anyway, all right. So that's my background. So Jake has slightly different training and fitness background. So I know you've done endurance races, right?
I have, yeah.
All right, so I want to ask you some questions about endurance races that I'm
cool.
curious about.
Shoot.
All right. So, and I have my questions written out here, so I'm going to ask
I won't
them.
look at them.
All right,
I haven't looked at them
good.
yet.
All right. So what is the longest race you've ever done?
Okay, that's actually a good question. As far as running races, there is a difference between adventure racing and then just like running races. I've done your traditional marathon, but then at some point that got boring, and I got into what was called adventure racing, but I was more interested in the non-traditional adventure racing, which essentially is a traditional, to give you an idea of a background, a traditional adventure race is usually some sort of like mountaineering or land navigation, which would be like hiking, and you find your way. You can basically make your own trail, and then there's also mountain biking and kayaking.
Awesome.
Yeah, great stuff. If you're an outdoors person, you would love it. I totally recommend it. I got into some of the more non-traditional, where it was a lot of like basically hoofing it on just 2 feet. And some of it required like pulling sleds, some of it required just carrying gear and just going through crazy terrain. So I guess all that said, to answer your question, the longest race I was in was 150 miles.
Damn. 150 miles.
Some of them went better than others. My last one that I was in, I actually...
What?
Yeah.
That might lead into another question, so maybe you shouldn't say it.
All right.
Maybe you shouldn't elaborate too
I'll
much.
hold
All
off
right.
on the story.
All right, let's wait. All right, I have some
miles.
other questions. All right, 150 miles. All right, wow. All right, so next question to build off that. All right, so what kind of training did you do to prep, and what amount of time did it take you in order to train for that 150-mile race?
Yeah, that's a good question, because people think they can just jump into it. I've been doing a lot of distance stuff for years, but I also have done a lot of strength training. So I feel like that had a lot to do with some of my success, because with the steady state style of endurance racing, your muscles you have to train them differently. And one of the adjustments I had to make is how to learn to make sure my feet were, and they had the endurance to keep those long stretches. So what I ended up doing essentially was 2 hours of slow running in the morning, and then 2 hours of slow weighted running at night, and I would mix those up, and I would couple that with my working out, strength training. You talked about overtraining. I can totally relate to that, and I think most athletes can relate to overtraining. I don't know if I would do it that way anymore, but that's how I build.
Okay, and so you found that way it was just the best way to not only build up your endurance, but also just let your body, endure that stress on your joints and on your muscles and
Yeah,
heart rate and stuff.
exactly. I mean, I certainly couldn't do a weighted trek 4 hours a day. At some point, your body will break down. Your lower back takes a lot of beating on it. So
Okay.
I always adjusted the weight with that. So.
Good. All right, so that's going to lead me to my next question. All right, so what did your nutrition consist of during that training and then during the actual race itself?
Yes, and
150 miles is a long way. So
absolutely.
I'm
And the interesting thing about a lot of these adventure races and the non-traditional running races, I guess you would call them, not all of them have categories, but nutrition does vary. When I was training for it, a lot of high protein calories. So I'm a big fan of lean meats and veggies, and all I drink is water for the most part when I'm training. Never any power drinks or sugar drinks. I completely eliminate that from my diet for the most part. And calories were probably about 5,000 when I was training. And when you're doing the race itself, you could burn pretty close to 10,000 calories a day. As you're going through the terrain. It just depends on what terrain you're going through. Whether it's hot or cold, you still burn a lot. So I guess to answer,
you just bring in like, bundles of nuts and dried meats, or like what do you bring?
Yeah, there was I used to use, like years ago, I would use like a lot of like the beef jerkies they had out there for protein and some sort of energy bars. I found them to be too sugary and I would crash a lot. I had a client last year make my own version of that,
Nice.
and it was really good. And that's probably the way I'll do it from now on if I continue doing it. So the calories were still there, but certainly things changed. When you're out there for 6-8 hours, 10, 12, sometimes even longer, and oftentimes longer, you crave weird things. So like I don't know, I think I was 40 miles in and I craved Pepsi. And I never drink soda,
Yeah.
but I obliged that because my body was craving it. So it was like that jump start that I needed.
Well, that's two things I learned. So I learned what you should eat during, or does it depend, also I guess to elaborate, does it depend on the person, or do you think it's in a general rule of thumb, like lots of protein? I mean, I feel this is what it would be. Lots of fats, healthy fats, and just carbs. Like, is that just kind of general rule of thumb?
It's pretty common.
Okay.
I will say, but with a lot of the ultra runners, it's usually one extreme to the other. Like if anybody has ever heard like the Paleolithic diet or paleo diet, there's either that side or there's the vegan side. I seldom see the in between. Usually it's one extreme to the other,
Okay.
and they're both conducive to the sport.
Okay. I guess so. Also, we learned that if you're going to train with Jake, you should make him food because he likes that.
I do. So if you're a cook, I'm probably going to try the food.
All right. So building off what I was talking about in the beginning, overtraining. So how do you, when you're training for these ultras and longer races, how do you gauge whether or not you're overtraining?
That's a lot of experience. I've learned to listen to my body. When I was younger, I didn't know. It was kind of like in your case for soccer. Like you overtrain and you don't realize until you learn more and you're like, I did it incorrectly.
Yeah.
These days, I know I'm overtraining based on how my muscle recovery is. If I'm waking up, I know how my muscles should feel. And if I'm too sluggish, I'll take a day off if I need to.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I'd say these days myself also, I'm 35. I mean, if my body is hurting, I'm just going to take a day off. I know my body. I don't need to kill it every day. I don't need to do high intensity workouts every day in order to stay fit. Some days you have those aches and pains that you don't want lingering longer than others. So you just work around those.
It's those decades of training that you've been through.
Yeah. So I guess for the younger people out there, I think what's a good rule of thumb? Just because just like you said, back in college when you're younger, you don't really know necessarily. So I think if you're always waking up tired, I think that's one sign that you're overtraining, definitely, that I know of.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I've experienced.
Some of that's also probably nutrition. If you're waking up tired, you either aren't eating enough or you're not eating the right things. And usually I would look at maybe too much carbs or maybe not enough calories. It could be either one.
Yeah. All right. So, and you started to actually get into this earlier, so I had to stop you.
Yeah.
So
okay.
what is the hardest you've ever pushed your body?
Yeah, literally till failure. And it's happened close. It got close a few times in other races, I happened to do a race last year in sub-zero temperatures where I think I alluded to like pulling a sled in one of them. This was one of those races where I pulled a sled. And so you have all your gear you carry with you, and you go from checkpoint to checkpoint. Each checkpoint was, give or take, 15, 20, 25 miles. And I don't know, I think I was headed, I was on my 56th mile, maybe, no, it's probably less than that, 50 miles. And the weather, the temperature literally went from like 15 degrees to negative 28, something like that. And body just shut down. I mean, shut down, passed out. I don't know how long I was out for, but it was at least a good several seconds before I realized I was laying in the snow trying to fight for oxygen.
Man, it's pretty scary.
You know, at the time, and there were times where I would start to feel like I was going to black out in other races, and I knew to just stop and pull back or slow it down. I was pushing really hard. I was running in front, which as a rule normally I don't do. I fall back, and then towards the end I usually improve. This time I started too fast. It was a rookie move that I knew better than. And because I pushed too fast, I felt like I can hang with that pace, and I think my body just said, I'm done. And yeah, that's what happened.
Well, I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah, me too.
Glad you're here still. All right, well, you know, I'm going to wrap this up, but, you know, thanks for answering all those great questions.
Yeah, this surprised me. I didn't know it was going to be distance stuff.
Yeah. But, so to kind of wrap up, and, you know, you can give your thoughts on this as well. So I think no matter what you're training for, I think as long as you're passionate about it and as long as, you know, you love what you're doing, I wouldn't worry so much about overtraining as much as just pushing yourself. I don't necessarily take back those days that I overtrained with my buddy, just because, I don't know, like those memories will stick with me forever, and like my body, I was just in ridiculous shape. And again, although I was overtraining, I wasn't like struggling every single game, but I just know now more efficient ways to train. But I think that as long as you're into what your sport is, whether it's, you know, endurance training, for me, soccer, football, whatever it is, as long as you give it 100% and you know, just, I used to always like think about like what the other guy is doing, and I'm thinking like, okay, he's resting right now, so I'm going to work. And that is what elevated me to the next level, you know, helped give me that, earn that scholarship to college, which paid for my college, and just, you know, give me that work ethic that I carried on into daily life today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about the younger guys kind of growing up, girls, guys in general. But this, I say guys because this tends to be more important to them as far as the strength aspect. Don't let an endurance thing hold you back. If you want to try it, it's not going to make you weaker. I don't think I was the exception to the rule. I think it was how I trained. Some people look at me and like, how do you do endurance races? You don't look like you have the size. I think that's a myth where you have to be skinny to go long distances. It's how you push your body and how you train your muscles. And if you mix it up, like, you know, James was saying, you definitely can still enjoy it. I recommend keeping yourself off guard. You know, try a sport. You know, I should play soccer with James one time.
Yeah,
he could teach me some moves on that, and I can embarrass myself.
All right, well, awesome. Well, thanks again for watching, everyone. I hope this was helpful. What are we calling this again? The Red Couch
Talks? I don't know. This is fun. We got to do it again. This is the
Red Couch Talks. So this is the inaugural Red Couch Talk, the first one. Even though we've done, I know Jake's done a lot of the vlogs on the Red Couch, and I
started him. Yeah,
he surprised me the other. I think it was last week where you like came up and asked me some questions.
Yeah,
but I think this is fun. The Red Couch vlogs. And you don't know what the other person is going to ask. You just know that you're going to be asked questions.
Yeah, I like that better, Red Couch Vlogs.
Yeah.
You just changed it.
Oh, did I?
I like it.
I like it. Red Couch Talks.
You tell us. What do you think?
Leave a comment.
Talks or
Let
vlogs?
us know. But thanks again for watching. Leave a comment, share, like, and always remember you don't have to be an athlete to train like an athlete. Let's do it!
Oh, I was about to say it!
You blew it!
Let's do it! That was fun, dude.
Yeah. Diagonal. Other one, that's one. This is a good one. Core stability. That's two.